Welcome, the anointed ones. Let me tell you something unsettling. People talk about you like they're describing three different humans living in the same body. That's the truth most chosen ones never hear out loud. You walk into a room as one person, but you leave behind four different versions of yourself, each shaped by the emotional state, insecurity, mindset, or hidden agenda of the person observing you. And what's crazy? Psychologists actually have a name for this: perceptual distortion. It simply means people don't see you. They see their wounds wearing your face. And you're living your life thinking everybody sees the same you. But behind the scenes, it's chaos, pure chaos. One person swears you're the kindest soul they've ever met. Another says you're too mysterious to trust. A third thinks you're hiding divine wisdom behind your eyes. And a fourth, they're convinced you're plotting something, even though you can barely plot a grocery list. Yes, they're that dramatic. You're not confusing. You're not changing personalities. What's actually happening is this: your presence forces people to reveal themselves, and not everyone likes the version of themselves that shows up. That's why their opinions are drastically opposite. Not because you're inconsistent, but because you're spiritually, psychologically, and energetically reflective. Your authenticity acts like a mirror with brutal lighting. Some people catch a glimpse of who they could be, and they adore you for it. Others catch a glimpse of who they really are, and suddenly you're the villain of a story you never auditioned for. And here's the twist that makes this topic wild. The more aligned, grounded, and elevated you become, the more unstable, contradictory, and dramatic people's opinions of you get. It's almost like your growth pulls the mask off everyone around you at the exact same time, and they don't know whether to clap, run, or throw a tantrum that would embarrass a toddler. So buckle up, because once you understand why people carry these wildly different versions of you inside their minds, you'll finally stop explaining yourself, apologizing for being misunderstood, or feeling responsible for their confusion. This isn't about them misunderstanding you. It's about you being a spiritual X-ray machine, walking around on two legs, revealing what they never wanted anyone to see. Let's get into it. Number 1. People have opposite opinions of you because you don't fit their internal script. People love when others fit neatly into the roles they've already written in their minds. It makes life simple for them. They want the quiet one, the confident one, the troublemaker, the giver, the easy-to-control person, something predictable. But you don't fit any of those basic categories. You break their mental template, and it frustrates them more than they admit. So instead of updating their understanding, they update their opinion of you. That's why one person calls you a blessing, and another calls you complicated. They're reacting to the fact that you don't behave the way their assumptions told them you would. When someone meets you, their mind automatically tries to place you in a storyline that matches their past experiences. If they've had people take advantage of them before, they'll expect you to be manipulative. If they've been abandoned, they'll assume you're unreliable. If they've met fake people, they'll assume your kindness has an angle. They're not meeting you, they're meeting ghosts from their past and forcing you into the costume. And when you don't act like the character they cast you as, it shakes them. Instead of admitting they misjudged you, they simply rewrite you into another character. That's why opinions drift so dramatically from person to person. Your personality is too layered, too honest, too self-possessed to be squeezed into someone's emotional shortcut. You can be gentle but direct, quiet but observant, warm but firm. People who don't understand themselves struggle to understand anyone with depth, so they grab one part of you and build a whole story around it. The next person grabs a different part and builds an opposite story. The problem is never your identity. It's their inability to handle complexity. You are one whole, consistent person, but people's perspectives are cracked, biased, and shaped by everything they haven't healed. Their opinions reflect their lens, not your truth. And when someone like you refuses to shrink into the simple role they prefer, their minds scramble, so they each create a different version of you to feel in control. That's why their opinions clash, not because you lack clarity, but because you refuse to be reduced. Number 2, their opinions shift. Because being around you forces an internal mirror they weren't ready for. There are people who can go years without facing their own flaws, insecurities, or toxic habits simply because no one around them challenges the way they see themselves. They choose friends who enable their ego, partners who tolerate their behavior, and environments that never push them to grow. Then someone like you walks in, someone who doesn't play pretend, doesn't lower their standards, and doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. And suddenly, the mirror they've avoided is standing right in front of them. You don't even have to say or do anything dramatic. Your honesty, your growth, your emotional maturity, and even your quiet self-awareness highlight what they've been avoiding in themselves. For some people, this feels refreshing. They feel inspired around you. They catch themselves wanting to be better, wanting to grow, wanting to rise to the level of clarity you carry. They see themselves more clearly, even if it stings, and they appreciate that your presence wakes something up inside them. That's why their opinion of you is warm, respectful, and often filled with admiration. But for others, it's the complete opposite. Your presence presses on all the areas they've refused to confront. The insecurity they've hidden, the truth they've buried, the lies they've told themselves. Being around you brings all of it closer to the surface. That creates discomfort, and instead of dealing with it, they blame you for making them feel exposed. Their negative reactions have nothing to do with your behavior, and everything to do with the emotional confrontation happening inside them. In their mind, you become the problem simply because you represent the growth they haven't had the courage to pursue. This is why their opinions of you can swing from positive to negative depending on where they are emotionally. You act like a silent truth detector, and not everyone wants the truth, especially when it points inward. So while some people feel seen in a good way, others feel confronted in a way they can't handle. Their shifting opinions don't reveal who you are. They reveal what they're running from. Your presence just happens to uncover it. Number 3, you trigger cognitive dissonance in people who aren't living truthfully. Cognitive dissonance is what happens when someone's actions, beliefs, and identity don't match, and instead of fixing the mismatch, they try to avoid anything that reminds them of it. This is exactly why people who live in falsehoods or pretend to be someone they're not often have the strongest reactions to you. You operate in truth, not perfection, but truth. You say what you mean, you follow through, you outgrow old versions of yourself, and you don't cling to masks. Your presence reveals the gap between who they claim to be and who they actually are, and that gap makes them uncomfortable in a way they can't explain. Some people look at you and admire the honesty you carry. It challenges them to be more real with themselves. They see your growth, your decisions, your mindset, and feel motivated to adjust their own lives. Your authenticity doesn't intimidate them, it encourages them. They feel safe in your presence because you don't force them to be anything. You simply show what's possible when you stop lying to yourself. But for others, that same honesty shakes their entire internal foundation. They realize they've been performing, pretending, or manipulating their way through life, and encountering someone who doesn't operate like that creates a mental conflict they don't know how to resolve. Instead of admitting they're not living in alignment, they decide that you must be the confusing one, the threat, the show-off, the person who thinks they're better. They create these narratives to soothe the tension your presence creates. That tension is cognitive dissonance working on them. The wildest part is that many of these people don't even consciously understand why they feel uneasy around you. Their mind is trying to protect their ego, so it reacts with judgment, jealousy, or resistance. They don't dislike you. They dislike the version of themselves they're forced to confront when you're around. And because it's easier to change their opinion of you than to change the truth about themselves, they twist the narrative until it feels comfortable again. Their reactions have nothing to do with who you are and everything to do with the internal conflict your authenticity exposes. Number 4. Your consistency exposes their inconsistency, so their opinions flip to protect their image. People who don't live with real integrity have one major weakness. They depend on confusion to keep their image intact. They want to be seen as good, wise, loyal, or morally strong, but their actions don't match that picture. So they create narratives, exaggerations, and excuses that make them look right, even when they're wrong. This works for them, until someone consistent shows up. Someone like you, someone whose character doesn't change based on who's watching or what you can gain. Your steady behavior exposes the instability they've been hiding, and instead of confronting their flaws, they scramble to twist the story. Your consistency is uncomfortable for them because it makes their shifts obvious. When you treat everyone the same, follow through, stay true to your word, and keep a steady sense of self, it becomes harder for them to lie about you. The truth stands in the way of the version they're trying to sell. If they called you unreliable, your consistency disproves them. If they called you dramatic, your calm disproves them. If they called you weak, your resilience exposes their lie. So what do? They flip their opinion, not because you changed, but because the evidence keeps embarrassing their original judgment. This flip-flopping is their way of saving face. They can't openly admit they misjudged you. They can't accept that their assumptions were built on insecurity or envy. And they definitely don't want others to notice the gap between their words and your actions. So they keep adjusting the story. They label you one way today and another way tomorrow. They shift the narrative depending on who's listening, all in the hope that someone will still believe the version they're trying to protect. It's never about accuracy, it's about ego. Your stability forces them to confront their instability, and that's something their self-image can't handle. Their opinions bend and twist because the truth keeps making their previous claims look foolish. Their inconsistency is not a reflection of your character. It's a reflection of how threatened they feel by someone who doesn't need lies to hold themselves together. Number 5. Some people perceive you as dangerous because your insight cuts through their manipulation instantly. You don't have to confront anyone, raise your voice, or expose their plans outright. Your presence alone makes certain people nervous because you read energy, behavior, tone, patterns, and motives faster than they can perform the act they rehearsed. Manipulators rely on confusion. They rely on people being slow to catch on. They rely on others doubting their instincts. But you see the glitch in their behavior before they even finish their sentence. And that kind of clarity feels like danger to anyone who benefits from pretending. Some people find you comforting because they're genuine themselves. They don't have hidden agendas, so your insight feels like safety. They trust you. They feel understood. They feel seen in a good way. But the ones who operate in secrecy, manipulation, or emotional games, they feel exposed, even if you haven't said a word. It's not what you do. It's what you notice. It's the way you catch inconsistencies, the way you hear what wasn't said, the way you don't fall for the polished version of a story. They can sense that you aren't easy to fool, and that instantly puts you on their problem list. Instead of admitting that you're perceptive, they try to flip the script. They say you're too intense, hoping it makes you question yourself. They say you're reading too much into things, hoping you'll lower your awareness. They say you're too sharp, hoping others will see your clarity as aggression instead of discernment. These labels are defensive shields, their attempt to hide the fact that their tactics don't work on you. This fear they feel isn't imaginary. They know you can spot manipulation in real time. You're the type who remembers small details, notices behavior shifts, and connects dots they hoped would stay scattered. And because they can't control the version of themselves you see, they try to control the version of you that others see. They do it through labels, gossip, exaggerations, anything to protect the fake image they've built. But the truth remains. Your insight disrupts their illusion, and for a manipulative person, that feels like danger. Not because you're harmful, but because you're honest in a way they cannot survive. Number 6. Your energy doesn't blend. It disrupts, elevates, or reveals. That's why reactions differ. Most people walk into a room and try to adjust themselves to the atmosphere. They quiet their personality, soften their opinions, and blend into whatever energy is already present. But you're built differently. You don't adjust to environments. Environments adjust to you. Your presence shifts the emotional temperature around you without you even trying. Some people experience that shift as motivation. They feel more awake, more aware, more capable when you're around. You bring clarity to their confusion and strength to their indecision. They don't always understand it, but they can feel it. Being around you makes them feel like they're stepping into a higher version of themselves, and they appreciate it even if they never say it out loud. But for others, that same energy feels like pressure. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your presence naturally highlights what's out of order in their life. You make them aware of the habits they've been ignoring, the truths they've been avoiding, and the character flaws they've been excusing. They feel exposed, even if you haven't spoken a word. Your energy reveals what's hidden, the envy, the insecurity, the dishonesty, the unresolved pain. And people who aren't ready to deal with those things interpret that feeling as discomfort. Instead of seeing you as the wake-up call they need, they see you as the problem they want to avoid. This is why people react to you in such different ways. You're not doing too much, saying too much, or trying to be anything. You simply carry an energy that doesn't sit quietly in the background. It either lifts, shifts, or exposes whatever is already there. Some people rise with it, others resist it. Some become better because of you, others become bitter because they don't want to face the truth your presence uncovers. Their reactions aren't about your personality or your intentions. They're about the spiritual, emotional, and psychological effect you have on the environment. You don't blend in because you weren't meant to. You were meant to set a tone, shift a frequency, and reveal what needs to be seen. And not everyone is ready for that kind of presence, even though many desperately need it. Number 7. Their spirit recognizes you before their mind does, creating extreme first impressions. You've probably noticed that people don't respond to you halfway. They either warm up to you with surprising speed or tense up like they've just been confronted by something they can't explain. This isn't about looks, personality, or social cues. This is spiritual recognition happening before their logical mind has time to catch up. Their spirit picks up on your energy, your depth, your inner authority, and your alignment long before they can form any conscious thoughts about you. Some people feel a sense of safety around you almost instantly. They don't know you, but they feel like they can breathe around you. Their guard drops without effort. Their spirit senses the purity, the stability, the groundedness you carry, and responds with immediate trust. These are the people who gravitate to you, confide in you quickly, or treat you like someone they've known for years. It's not because you said the perfect words or acted a certain way. It's their soul recognizing a familiar frequency in you. Then you have the opposite reaction. People who become nervous, defensive, or uncomfortable around you for no logical reason. They don't know why they can't relax near you. They don't know why they feel exposed. They don't know why they feel evaluated, even though you're not judging them. What's really happening is their spirit senses your spiritual rank, your discernment, your honesty, your ability to see beneath surfaces. And instead of feeling protected, they feel seen, deeply seen. And that scares them because they're used to hiding behind layers. Their mind tries to explain the feeling, but the mind is always slower than the soul. So they come up with reasons like, "There's something off about you," or "You're intimidating," or "I don't trust them." These explanations don't reflect you. They reflect their internal reaction to the truth your energy carries. Their spirit recognized what their ego didn't want to deal with. This is why your first impressions are always extreme. You don't walk into people's lives quietly. Your presence makes an impact at a spiritual level first, and the mind is simply trying to catch up with what the soul already knows. Number 8. People with hidden agendas create extreme opinions to justify their motives. People rarely admit their true intentions out loud. They won't say, "I want to use you," "I want to control you," or "I want to keep you beneath me." Instead, they build dramatic, exaggerated opinions about you to make their motives look reasonable. They use their words as camouflage. So if someone wants access to your kindness, your time, or your resources, they'll emphasize how gentle, understanding, or forgiving you are, not as a compliment, but as a strategy. They want others to believe you're the type who will always say yes, so when they take advantage, no one questions it. On the other hand, someone who wants to sabotage you can't let people see your strengths. That threatens their plans. So they magnify your flaws, twist harmless mistakes into character issues, and retell stories with just enough distortion to make you look unstable, selfish, or unreliable. They need others to doubt your credibility, so their envy, insecurity, or competition seems justified. Their extreme negativity isn't about who you are. It's about protecting the seats they've assigned themselves in your life. Then there are the ones who want control. These people exaggerate your supposed dependence, acting like you need them more than you actually do. They tell others you're lost without their support or guidance because it makes their dominance look necessary. If they can paint you as fragile, confused, or incapable, then their controlling behavior looks like help instead of manipulation. Each exaggerated story serves a purpose. Every extreme opinion is nothing more than a tool used to shape how others see you so that the person with the hidden agenda can continue benefiting. The more they want something from you, the more dramatic their description becomes. It's never about accuracy, it's about strategy. The truth is simple. People reveal more about themselves when they talk about you than they realize. Their opinions are confessions. Their exaggerations are warnings. Their intensity exposes their motive. Once you learn to pay attention to the intention behind their words, you stop internalizing their narratives and start seeing who they really are. Their story about you is never your truth. It's their agenda wearing your name. Number 9. You don't fit into any social hierarchy, so everyone projects their own category onto you. Most people feel safest when they can quickly label someone and place them neatly into a social box. It gives them a sense of order, a sense of control, a sense of knowing where they stand. But you don't cooperate with those boxes. You don't shrink yourself to look harmless, but you also don't inflate yourself to look superior. You don't perform for approval, and you don't dim your intelligence to make others comfortable. You sit in your own lane, fully aware of who you are, and that makes people confused, sometimes fascinated, sometimes threatened. The problem is that society is wired for hierarchies. People want to know, are you above me? Are you below me? Are you someone I should admire, fear, dismiss, or impress? But when they meet you, none of their usual categories feel right. You're too aware to be naive, but too open-hearted to be cynical. You're too calm to be passive, but too grounded to be aggressive. You're observant without being judgmental, expressive without being dramatic. You don't land on one extreme, and people who only understand extremes can't figure you out. So they try to interpret you through their own limitations. Someone insecure might label you intimidating because they feel small next to your confidence. Someone manipulative might label you cold because you're immune to their tactics. Someone emotionally unavailable might call you too much because you trigger feelings they don't want to face. Meanwhile, someone with depth might see you as refreshing, powerful, or inspiring because they recognize the layers in you that others don't. What shifts isn't you. It's the internal world of whoever is observing you. They aren't reacting to your identity. They're reacting to their own inability to categorize it. And whenever someone can't understand a person, they fill in the gaps with assumptions, projections, and made-up narratives. This is why you get wildly different stories about who you are. People describe you based on their level of self-awareness, not based on truth. You're not inconsistent. You're simply complex, and complexity forces people to reveal their intellectual and emotional limits. You're not meant to fit their hierarchy. You're meant to stand outside it, untouched, unboxed, and unbothered. Number 10. Your presence makes people aware of their own life pace. Some feel behind, some feel inspired. You move at a rhythm that isn't dictated by culture, comparison, or competition, and that disrupts the internal timeline people create to convince themselves they're doing okay. Your growth doesn't follow the predictable arc society expects: struggle, slow improvement, incremental wins. No, you leap. You evolve in quantum jumps. You ascend in seasons where most people stagnate. And whether they admit it or not, your pace forces people to confront themselves. Some people look at you and feel activated. Your life reminds them what's possible. Your resilience makes them raise their standards. Your evolution proves that acceleration is real, that someone can go from overlooked to undeniable without warning. Around you, inspiration is effortless, but others feel exposed. Your very existence highlights the corners of their life they've been avoiding, the dreams they abandoned, the habits they refused to change, the opportunities they procrastinated into oblivion. They don't actually dislike you. They dislike the version of themselves your presence reflects back at them. So their admiration curdles into envy, their respect shifts into criticism, and their support quietly turns into distance. You didn't change. Their self-awareness did. People who feel behind interpret your acceleration as an insult, even though you never pointed a finger. Their spirit senses the difference between someone who is moving and someone who is merely surviving. That's why their reactions fluctuate so dramatically. They're not responding to your personality. They're reacting to the pressure your progression puts on their stagnation. You're a timeline disruptor. You're a progress mirror. You're a reminder that delayed growth was a choice, not fate. And because of that, your presence triggers two types of people. Your evolution didn't create the tension, it revealed it. Number 11. Emotionally unstable people. React to you based on their mood, not your reality. Some people don't actually have a consistent self. They have emotional fragments that take turns running their life. And because they don't know who they truly are, they also can't hold a stable, grounded perception of who you are. Their opinion of you is nothing more than a snapshot taken during their latest emotional storm. If they're in a needy mood, you become amazing. If they're in an insecure mood, you become intimidating. If they're in a guilty mood, you become judgmental. If they're in a jealous mood, you become the enemy. None of this has anything to do with you. It's a weather report from inside their soul. Emotionally unstable people project their internal chaos outward because it's easier than confronting the real issue, their lack of emotional regulation, identity, and accountability. You become the mirror they use to justify their feelings, even when their feelings were never caused by you in the first place. This is why those types of people cycle through extremes with you. Their internal instability requires external targets. So the moment their mood shifts, their narrative shifts. They rewrite their version of you to match the emotional lens they're seeing through. And here's the deeper truth. Emotionally unstable people can't maintain consistent relationships because they can't maintain a consistent relationship with themselves. When someone doesn't know who they are, they will always misinterpret who you are. Your groundedness, your emotional clarity, your inner stability, it all highlights the instability they're trying to hide. So instead of facing themselves, they create a moving, shifting version of you that fits whatever story helps them avoid responsibility. One day you're real, the next day you're fake. One week you're supportive, the next week you're against them. It's not truth, it's turbulence. You weren't dealing with a person. You were dealing with a storm that keeps changing direction. Number 12. Some people think you're too good to be real, and their distrust creates negative opinions. There are people who have lived so long in environments filled with broken promises, fake kindness, secret agendas, and masked intentions that your sincerity feels unrealistic to them. They don't know how to process someone who isn't playing a game, someone who isn't switching faces depending on who's watching. So instead of believing you're authentic, they convince themselves you must be hiding something, because that's exactly what they would do in your position. Your depth becomes suspicious, your consistency becomes a trick, your kindness becomes calculated, your intuition becomes manipulative. They aren't reacting to your character, they're reacting to their own damaged reference point for humanity. People who don't trust themselves automatically distrust others. They assume everyone is running on the same hidden motives, the same survival tactics, the same emotional armor they carry. When they meet someone who isn't guarded, someone who isn't transactional, their brain scrambles for a category. And because they can't place you in the usual boxes, the liar, the people-pleaser, the opportunist, the show-off, they choose suspicion as a defense mechanism. It's much easier for them to believe you're too good to be true than to accept that they've normalized relationships built on fear and performance. What's wild is that some of them even get angry at your authenticity, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your honesty exposes how much pretending they've been doing. Your presence becomes a quiet truth they don't want to face. They've accepted artificial connections for so long that realness feels threatening. So they form negative opinions, not because of who you are, but because of what you remind them of, the gap between the person they show the world and the person they actually are. Their distrust is a projection of their wounds, their history, and their own inability to show up wholeheartedly. You didn't trigger their suspicion. Their suspicion was waiting for someone real enough to challenge it. Their judgment of you is just their unresolved relationship with themselves wearing a new mask. Number 13. You carry a destiny-level purpose and people sense it, subconsciously. Some celebrate it, some fear it. You don't have to explain your purpose for people to feel it. Before you speak, before you share your history, before you reveal your plans, something about your presence signals that your life is tied to something bigger than the moment. People can't always explain it, but they feel it the same way you feel a shift in the atmosphere before a major change, silently, instinctively, and undeniably. Certain people respond to that energy with admiration. They're drawn to you, not because of anything you've done, but because their spirit recognizes you're moving towards something significant. They feel safer around you. They feel inspired around you. They feel more aligned around you. These people celebrate you because your purpose activates something healthy inside them: courage, clarity, or even the belief that they too can rise. But not everyone reacts that way. Some people feel threatened the moment they meet you, long before you show any visible sign of success. They don't fear your achievements. They fear the invisible weight of your calling. They sense you're someone whose presence shifts outcomes, someone who changes the atmosphere without trying, someone whose path will eventually disrupt certain systems, relationships, or patterns, and their fear shows up as dislike, jealousy, or sudden hostility. Their spirit reacts before their character does. Their fear isn't about you being better. Their fear comes from the realization that your purpose will require them to confront their own limitations, stagnation, or hidden motives. Destiny has a vibration, a frequency, and those who are out of alignment with their own calling feel discomfort in the presence of someone who is aligned with theirs. This is why some people support you without knowing why, and why others oppose you without any logical reason. You're not dealing with their personality, you're dealing with their spiritual recognition of your trajectory. You walk into rooms carrying the future with you. Some people sense that and rise. Some sense it and fold. Some sense it and fight. But none of it changes the truth. Your purpose is too powerful to be hidden, and too spiritual to be understood by everyone. Number 14. Your evolution exposes people who never thought you'd rise. Now they're scrambling to rewrite history. There are people who built entire versions of you in their mind, versions where you never outgrow your past, never heal the wounds they expected to break you, never step into the confidence they prayed you'd never discover. They held on to outdated opinions because those opinions protected their ego. They liked the old you because that version didn't challenge their insecurity, their control, or their quiet desire to feel superior. But growth has a way of cornering people who underestimated you, and your evolution has done exactly that. The moment you started rising, something shifted. Your progress didn't just elevate you, it exposed them. It exposed their lack of faith in you. It exposed the parts of them that secretly enjoyed watching you struggle. It exposed how confidently they misread your spirit, your strength, and your capacity. Now they're scrambling to rewrite history so they don't look like the ones who bet against the wrong person. Some of them will suddenly claim they always knew you had potential, even though their behavior told a different story. Their new admiration is really just them trying to stay connected to your glow because they don't want to face the truth. They misjudged a rising soul. They thought you would remain stuck. They thought your setbacks were permanent. They thought your silence was weakness. They were wrong, and your elevation makes that impossible to hide. Others go the opposite direction. They get bitter, resentful, or defensive. Instead of owning their misjudgment, they paint your growth as luck, pretense, or arrogance. Their ego cannot handle that the person they wrote off is now operating on a level they never imagined. So they rewrite the past to protect themselves. They change the story so they don't look like the villain, the doubter, or the one with limited vision. Their shifting opinions aren't a reflection of you at all. They are a reflection of their disbelief, their pride, and their discomfort with your evolution. Your rise didn't change who you are. It revealed who they always were. And whether they applaud you or despise you now, your growth remains proof that their narrative never had the power to define your destiny. At the end of the day, chosen one, everything you've experienced, the wild contradictions, the extreme reactions, the sudden shifts in opinion, the silent admiration, the quiet resentment, the unprovoked hostility, the unexplainable loyalty, none of it was random. You were never dealing with people's words. You were dealing with their wounds, their projections, their insecurities, their spiritual awareness, their unspoken fears, their subconscious recognition of your purpose. You've always been the same soul, the same energy, the same light. The difference is that your presence reveals people. Some people see you and rise, others see you and regress. Some celebrate the purity of your spirit. Others panic because it exposes the chaos inside them. You became the mirror they didn't ask for, the one that showed them the parts of themselves they've been avoiding for years. Your evolution only intensified their reactions. The more you healed, the more their unhealed pieces showed. The more you grew, the more their stagnation screamed. The more you elevated, the more their pride took a hit. Some supported your rise, others attempted to rewrite history so they wouldn't look like they underestimated you. But no matter what they tried to project, one thing remained constant. Your truth didn't move, their opinions did. And that's the entire message. People's opinions of you were never a reflection of your value. They were a reflection of their internal state, their mindset, their morals, their spiritual insight or lack thereof. You didn't trigger them, their own souls did. You didn't confuse them, their contradictions did. You didn't provoke them, their spirit recognized something their character wasn't ready to accept. You aren't here to fit into their stories. You aren't here to shrink into their assumptions. You aren't here to be reshaped by their fears. You are here to walk your purpose, grow into your calling, and stand in the fullness of who you've always been, even when others can't understand it. So keep rising, keep evolving, keep becoming the version of yourself that their opinions could never accurately define. Because the truth is this: your path is written, your energy is undeniable, and your destiny is already in motion, with or without their approval. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a powerful comment, and share it with someone who needs this message today. Your support helps this community grow, and it makes sure more chosen ones receive the clarity and strength they deserve. Keep shining. Your journey is only getting started. God bless you.